Hey everyone, Rowan here with New England Fly Company, looking to share another guide fly pattern with you. One of the challenges in fishing early season is the need to be highly technical. Usually if we're not catching fish where we would expect to, we change up a few things in a particular order. So we're going to focus first on changing our depth. If that doesn't work, we're going to focus on the approach and the behavior of the fly to where we think the fish is. So if we think it's in a very specific spot in the river and it's holding there, we're going to try casting ahead of it, right, with an indicator and letting it slowly dead drift. We're going to try casting it beyond and upstream, stripping across to maybe draw a reaction strike. And then we could also think about employing what's called a Leisenring lift, which is where you cast across or slightly upstream, let the weight of the fly in the line carry the fly down naturally, and then usually 2 to 3 feet before where you think the fish is, you'll give your rod a little jerk and naturally draw that fly from the bottom of the current up through the columns to imitate a rising fish and get a strike that way. When none of that works, we do think finally about changing the fly itself. When you're at your wit's end and you've exhausted all those options, often a return to basics is what helps break through. And this pattern is nothing if not basic. Using only thread and a sharpie marker, we can manage to achieve some very realistic and simple impressions of size 16 and smaller caddis nymphs that trout really don't think twice about sipping up. For materials, this fly is stupidly easy. First off, we have a fulling Mill FM1180 all-purpose light bronze hook in size 16. And then we have our UTC 70 Denier in cream. Now for Sharpies or markers, you're really looking for something that can handle water. Sharpie notably is the cheapest option. For doing that, it tends to hold its color. You'll get a little bit of fading, but really only when you've used the fly for 5, 6, 7 outings. For this purpose, it's more than enough. So let's hop in and I'll show you how to tie this thing up. We'll start, as we always do, with a little bit of thread. We'll start right up at the top of the hook, work our way down, grab our scissors, trim off our excess. And the entirety of this fly is really about the thread. So you're gonna want to draw it just down about 1/3 into the bend of the hook to give it a little bit of a natural curve, right? So when you pull these nymphs out of the water, they tend to be a little bit curved at the bottom as they're wriggling, right? So it's kind of your classic scud shape. For the profile of the fly, we're going to keep it fairly linear. We're not going to have a very significant taper. And that's because these are pretty small. They're early season caddis. They're not going to be huge. They're not going to be juicy. Sometimes you'll get that right and you can fish that sort of thing with maybe like a mop fly, but for this, we're looking for a technical presentation that the trout aren't going to be wary of. So something about like that is all you need. It's small, it's fairly thin, it has a slightly smaller butt than it does a midsection or a head. And as we continue to tie this fly, the head will get slightly larger, but we're also going to color that to make it a little more distinct. So now that we have the taper, all I'm going to do is wrap back down to the butt of the fly. And this is where we're going to create a dubbing loop, except we're going to create 2 or 3 of them. So we'll do 2, and now we'll do 3. Then we're going to come down here. We're going to tie in front, swing around to the back. And this is going to secure those loops. Now we're going to come back to the front and we're going to grab our whip finish tool. So if you've watched my bunny leech video, you know that I don't have a dedicated dubbing loop spinner because I like to use this notch on my whip finish tool and a little fancy finger work to get it done. So for this trick, all you do is you take your whip finish tool, you slide it in so that that notch captures the loop. You make a very slight little notch between 3 of your fingers, your first 2 and then your thumb. and then you hold and you spin, just like so. And so this is going to spin that thread up into something that will create distinct sections for us. You don't need to spin it too much, just about there is enough. And then all we're gonna do from here is wrap that spun dubbing loop in open spirals up the fly to create some segments. And just about there is fine. So as you can see, I've left a little bit of space, and this is for the water and fluid in the river to get in between and create little air bubbles, little trapped pockets, so that it looks a little bit more realistic. So this helps us keep the size down, it helps us keep the color consistent, and it helps us keep this fly looking a little bit more natural. So from here, we're just gonna go ahead and snip that loop. Give our thread a little bit of a spin as it came unwound during that tie. And from here, we're just gonna clean up some of this head. So we're gonna tie in, wrap down that loose end that we tied off, create a little bit of bulk here, come back up to the front, even that out, and then we're just gonna give it a couple whip finishes. So there isn't a whole lot you can get wrong on this kind of fly. Sometimes if you are a little sloppy with the segments, they might get a little closer together, and honestly, that's not the worst. I like keeping them a little spread apart like this, but I've also tied ones where they're touching wraps, and it looks pretty good too. You might not catch the water in quite the same effect, but for the most part, it's gonna be the fly you need. So we'll do one whip finish there, 1, 2, 3, second whip finish. We'll cut this thread. And then comes our finishing touch. All we want to focus on coloring here is this head part where we do not see those segments. We don't have any legs, we don't have any other materials that are going to get in the way of this. So all we want to do is just lightly touch this up. And also bearing in mind that caddis tend to have color variations, right? So they might have a little splotchy body, but more rather than less, the top of the bug or the insect is darker than the belly. So we're actually only gonna get the sides of this fly and the top so that we leave a little bit of that contrast on the bottom. I'll show you what that looks like after we get it done. I'm actually going to go ahead and touch up a few of those wraps just on top too. Touch up the sides here. Touch up the sides here. So as you can see, we've left the belly still with a cream color. The sides are a little darker, the top is the darkest, and we've touched up a couple of those segments. And this is going to be our Cream Caddis pattern. Super easy, super effective. Fish it really in any water where you know that caddis tend to live. This is going to be a pattern that works best in the early season and in other highly technical situations, but it should be something that you think about using any time of year. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you appreciated the content, please like, share, subscribe. If you'd like to purchase this fly or some of our other available patterns, maybe you'd want to explore New England water with a guided trip, you can always find them and us at newenglandfly.com. Tight lines, and we'll see you next time.